welcome to episode 14 of the Jimmy Canz Show. Still coming to you from isolation. Hey, here's what it is. Let's do another classic supercard retrospective. Here it is. We're finally there. The World Wrestling Federation presents WrestleMania 1. So now we're going to start getting into the thick and heavy of wrestling supercards. So, WrestleMania 1, again, like I said, was a World Wrestling Federation event. It was held on March 31st, 1985, from Madison Square Garden in New York, New York. The event was broadcast. It had about 19,121 in attendance live, and had over 1 million viewers on closed circuit, which at the time was the largest closed circuit TV audience in wrestling history. So, WrestleMania 1, what can you say? Vince put everything online for this event. It was make or break for old Vinnie Mac. If it didn't hit, he was out of business. He was homeless. He and Linda put their house up to make, to bank this event. So they had everything riding on this. So to make it work, he planned on combining his brand of wrestling with pop culture. He made deals with Yankee great Billy Martin to guest ring announce the main event, Liberace to guest timekeeper the main event, and be accompanied to the ring by the Rockettes. Muhammad Ali was brought on to referee the main event. However, once Ali arrived at the event, Pat Patterson could see that Ali was in no physical condition to do what was needed to referee a wrestling match, as he was already showing signs of his Parkinson's. So they had to pull an audible right there on the spot, and they made Ali the outside enforcer and inserted Patterson into the in-ring official role. Cyndi Lauper, continued her arrangement with the World Wrestling Federation and would manage Wendy Richter later that evening. And the pièce de résistance for McMahon on this one was that they had gotten Mr. T signed to work the main event, and he would be teaming with Hogan that evening. So, this was huge. I mean, T was larger than life, in 1985. I mean, fresh off of Rocky III, huge star in the A-Team, he had a Saturday morning cartoon, he had cereal, he had action figures, Mr. T was everywhere. So, that was a huge get for Vinny and company there. In addition to that, Vince also officially licensed popular music for the event. The opening of the event, when they run down the card, was backed to an instrumental version of Easy Lover by Phil Collins. Later that evening, Junkyard Dog would enter to Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. Tag team champions, the U.S. Express, they would enter to Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. Cyndi Lauper, again, lent the use of her Girls Just Want to Have Fun to be used for Wendy Richter's entrance. And last but certainly not least, obviously Hulk Hogan and Mr. T entered to Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, which was, made hugely popular, being, probably the kind of main theme of Rocky III. So, this was a huge undertaking for Vince. So I covered the brawl to end it all, which kind of started the ball in motion for the WWF, but there was also, leading into the first WrestleMania, another partnership with MTV, and that was the War to Settle the Score. And that helped set up the pairing of Hogan and Mr. T, that was, for the main event of the first WrestleMania. So, I just wanted to kind of mention that as a little background going into it. So, the first Mania was a 9-match card. It had 3 title matches. The action was called by the legendary Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. And the interviews were performed by Mean Gene Okerlund and Lord Alfred Hayes. So let's get into this card. First match of the night was a singles match between the Executioner and former Intercontinental Champion Tito Santana. So the Executioner was actually just Playboy Buddy Rose under a mask. And, this was an enhancement match, just to warm up the crowd, which Santana won, in under 5 minutes with a submission. Pretty dominant match by Santana here. Both the World Wrestling Federation and the NWA hadn't gotten supercards yet, in my opinion. The old formulaic booking for wrestling cards were, early in the evening to do these enhancement kind of matches, warm the crowd up, kind of ease into things, and then get your more high-profile matches later on. But, now we're talking about supercards. So I think every match needed to have something. You needed to have 2 credible individuals in it. You needed to have some story behind the matches, etc., etc. And we haven't gotten there yet. So, some of these are going to be, quick descriptions because there's not much to talk about with them. Case in point, second match of the night, we saw the recently signed King Kong Bundy, managed by the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, beat Special Delivery Jones in a kayfabe 9 seconds. It was more like about 18 or so seconds, but, they said it was 9 seconds. I mean, what can you say about a 9-second match? So let's move on. So our third match of the evening, I guess this is the first one I guess I'll not consider enhancement, so to speak. It saw the recently signed Ricky Steamboat, not yet given his dragon moniker, taking on the future Doink the Clown, and that was Matt Bourne. So Bourne and Steamboat, they put on a pretty good match, let's be honest. It was, there was no story behind the match. They didn't have any beef or feud or anything like that going into it. But both guys, they could both perform. Obviously, Steamboat had superior athleticism, which was pretty clear to see throughout the matchup, and he ended up picking up the victory, with a flying cross body. This was a really pretty solid match, all things considered, that you didn't have any real story or reason for these two to be squaring off other than, hey, they were there, kind of thing. So, it is what it is. Fourth match of the evening saw a pre-barber heel Brutus Beefcake with his manager, Luscious Johnny Valiant, taking on David Sammartino, who would be accompanied by his father, none other than the living legend himself, Bruno Sammartino. It was clear David was not what his father was, and to be honest, I think it was a mistake to have Bruno out there. He overshadowed everybody out there, just his presence. I mean, he was Bruno Sammartino, especially his son, was completely, in his father's shadow. So, I kind of see why they wanted to do it. Let's get Bruno out there in any way we can, but hey, this is kind of a 50-50 match. Pretty even until Beefcake tossed David to the outside of the ring, at which time Valiant picked him up, slammed him to the concrete floor, and then tossed him back into the ring. This led to Bruno then jumping in and all 4 men throwing hands, and the match just got tossed out as a no contest. Pretty much I think the only reason that this match was on the card was to give Bruno something to do and give it reason to have Bruno out there in front of the New York crowd. But hey, it was what it was. So after that match up, we got our first title match of the evening, which was the Intercontinental Championship matchup between champion Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was accompanied by his manager, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, and he took on the Junkyard Dog. Man, wow, was the Junkyard Dog over. I mean, JYD just connected with the crowd. Not the most, ring savvy individual. I mean, when you really watch a JYD matchup, he's not doing anything, that just wows you, but he just had this charisma and this connection with the crowd. It was, it was really something to behold. So, again, this was a pretty balanced match, back and forth, with, I would say, JYD probably having the advantage for a good majority of it, but, eventually Valentine got a pinfall using the ropes for leverage. However, that brought out former Intercontinental Champion Santana, who was still kind of feuding with Valentine, to protest and tell the official what happened. I wish some of this kind of stuff happened more nowadays, but hey, it is what it is. So the referee, decided to restart the match. Valentine being the heel and everything, and feeling that he had already won the match, refused to return to the ring. So they counted him out, and this gave Junkyard Dog the W, but not the title, because obviously the title does not change hands on a countout. So, not too bad. Next was our second title match of the evening, and it was for the WWF World Tag Team Championships. It saw champions the U.S. Express, who consisted of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, and they were accompanied out by their manager, Captain Lou Albano, and they took on the team of the Foreign Legion, which was comprised of the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, whom were under the management of one classy Freddie Blassie. So, the Express had the advantage for the majority of this match. But, again, the way things were back then, the Legion picked up the W when Sheik struck Windham in the head with Blassie's cane when the referee was distracted. And we have new tag team champions as a result in the Foreign Legion. So, next up was the career versus $15,000 body slam challenge match between Big John Studd, who was accompanied by his manager Bobby the Brain Heenan, and the eighth wonder of the world himself, Andre the Giant. So, as you would assume, this match was $15,000 of Studd's money up against the career of Andre, and in order to win, all Andre had to do was body slam Studd. I said all he had to do. I mean, Studd was a pretty big boy, but nobody was as big as Andre back then, so, Studd got the advantage early, but Andre, being Andre, turned things around with just chops and headbutts. It was pretty clear watching this matchup, though, that, Andre was already showing a lot of signs of breaking down. It's kind of sad to say, see that, this was kind of the beginning of the downward spiral for the boss. So, he, after, kind of turning things around, he scoops up Studd with relative ease and slams him to the canvas, and thus wins the match. Andre then, took the duffel bag of money and began throwing wads of money to the crowd, before Heenan would, run up behind Andre and snatch the bag away and run off to the back with it. Classic Bobby Heenan. Anything for money. So, it was great. Next, I guess, is what we'll call our semi-main, was for the Ladies' Championship. And this saw, newly crowned champion Leilani Kai, who was accompanied by the Fabulous Moolah, taking on the former champion Wendy Richter with Cyndi Lauper in her corner. This wasn't a very long match, as one would expect back in 1985 for women's matches. They just didn't give them, time. And also, as you would expect, Moolah got involved in the matchup, interfering, and was stopped by Lauper. Vince was great at knowing how best to work the celebrities into the thing without just, making it seem, too far-fetched, I guess, so to speak. He worked them in just enough, especially, in these early days. It was great. Kai went for a flying cross body from the top, and Richter rolled through and picked up the pin and recaptured the ladies' championship. So that takes us to our main event of the night. First Billy Martin comes out to do the ring announcements. Liberace comes out with the Rockettes in tow and the kick line in the ring. Spectacle. This is what Vince was going for. Out comes Ali, do a huge reaction. I mean, he's Muhammad Ali. So now all the, celebrity are, in place, and out comes, Orndorff and Piper, seconded by the ace himself, Cowboy Orton, with a full marching drum and bagpipe band. I mean, like I said, Vince was going all out here. This, stuff like this had never been seen before. So out come the heels. Then, PA system in Madison Square Garden starts kicking out Eye of the Tiger, and out comes Mr. T with the world champion Hulk Hogan, and they're seconded by the Superfly. And, the energy was just electric. Like I said, they really knew how to, kind of connect with the crowd. So T started the match with Piper, but, he got his stuff in quick, and everything, puts the tag to Hogan, and then Hogan ends up really working the majority of the match, which, when you really stop and think about it, makes sense. T was not a trained in-ring competitor, so, the match completely broke down at one point, leading Ali to have to strike Piper in an attempt to try and restore order. Again, Vince being a master at, let's see, how can we work Ali in, to do something without putting him at risk, et cetera, et cetera. It's perfect. After all that, Orndorff ended up getting Hogan in the full Nelson. And then Orton, well, the whole craziness is going on. Orton goes to the top and attempts to hit Hogan with his cast. And Hogan moves out of the way, and Orton strikes Orndorff, knocking him cold, and Hogan capitalizes on it and covers Orndorff for the 1, 2, 3, and the place erupts. Piper turns around, lays out Pat Patterson, and he and Orton leave, to the back and leave Orndorff laying. Completely walk out on their partner while the baby faces celebrate. So, so that was really the first WrestleMania. Not too bad, all things considered. Does it really hold up by today's standards? No, not really. But, it was something that had never been seen before. The combination of professional wrestling and pop culture to this level, and it got, bigger year after year after year after year. And it really started, the whole snowball and everything in the 80s wrestling boom. So, just like I did, with the first Arcade, the first Mania is going to get a little bit of a bump in terms of its rating. Like I said, if it had flopped, we wouldn't have Vince's booking decisions to complain about today. I mean, hey, what would the internet wrestling community have to talk about if they didn't talk about Vince's crappy booking? No, but in all seriousness, I think, the first WrestleMania deserves, a 5 out of 10. Wasn't great. Like I said, way too many enhancement matches early. But like I said, they just hadn't figured that out yet. They were booking super cards the way they booked any type of wrestling card. So they'll figure it out in due time. So, but in terms of story, spectacle, and such, it was a breath of fresh air for wrestling. So there you have it. I will be hopefully trying to get a Money in the Bank one in here pretty soon. We've got that coming up here in a little over a week's time at the time of this recording. So hopefully we can get that card solidified so I have something to talk about. Next retrospective, we will cover the first Great American Bash. So I hope everybody is staying safe out there, and I will see you when I see you.